The best thing HMD Global did this year was signing up its entire 2018 Android fleet with Google's Android One program. The Nokia line of phones themselves have been pretty competitive thus far, with the likes of the 7 Plus and the 6.1 Plus being some of the recent notable ones. HMD Global recently introduced a new budget offering called the Nokia 5.1 Plus that slots in at the 11,000 rupee price point. Now, the naming scheme might be a little confusing as one would typically assume this would replace the existing Nokia 5.1, which is actually priced a little higher. However, even though this is a lower priced phone, it does have better specifications, but the company has cut a few corners in order to bring this price down, which we'll find out in our review. The first thing that grabs your attention as soon as you take it out of the box is how premium it looks. The high gloss treatment for the entire body makes it look stunning and easily feels like the phone that would typically cost you upwards of 15,000 rupees. There's 2.5D curved glass for the back too, which is a rare find in this segment. The gloss finish does introduce an ergonomic issue as the 5.1 Plus is too slippery. We've also got a confirmation from the company that the 5.1 Plus does not have Gorilla Glass, which is a bummer. In the front, we have a 5.86-inch HD Plus display with a 19:9 aspect ratio. This is another area where HMD Global has had to cut corners in order to bring the price down. The display is not a bad one by any means. Colors are vivid and punchy, black levels are good, and the brightness is more than adequate for good legibility in sunlight. The dual SIM tray is on the left, which houses two 4G nano SIMs, and dual 4G VoLTE is supported. The internal storage is expandable, but you'll have to sacrifice a second SIM slot for this. We're not big fans of the design of the notch. It's a little too wide and the space doesn't seem to be utilized optimally as there's no notification LED here. The borders are quite thick too, which includes a sizable chin at the bottom. The fingerprint sensor is placed at the back, which works well, but we wish it was slightly larger and more prominent as it can be hard to find at times. The 5.1 Plus comes with good internals. There's a capable Mediatek Helio P60 octa-core SoC, which is a step up from the Helio P18 in the Nokia 5.1, and posts better benchmark numbers compared to most Snapdragon 636 based phones around this price point. Now at the time of this review, we only have one variant of the phone with 3GB of RAM and 32GB of storage. You get stock Android 8.1 Oreo without any bloatware whatsoever. There's Google's suite of apps and a support app from HMD Global. In the settings app, you do get some gestures like the ability to use the fingerprint sensor to access the notification shade or double pressing the power button to start the camera app. Now, there's no option to hide the notch, but this isn't really a major issue since most apps like games and most video players don't really stretch beyond the notch. The OS is quite up to date too with the September 5th security patch, which is good. You get Android's default face unlock feature, which is a bit of a hit or miss depending on the ambient light. The phone runs cool with general use like navigation, chat apps, or even using the GPS in apps like Uber. The area around the LED flash does begin to heat up quickly as soon as you fire up a game. Even simple ones like Alto's Odyssey gets temperatures going. However, the heat doesn't spread beyond that area too much, so while the entire body does get warm after say 30 minutes of PUBG, it's still manageable. The 30-megapixel primary sensor might be a step down in resolution compared to the Nokia 5.1, but it's actually not a bad performer. There's PDAF, a f2.0 aperture lens, and a secondary 5-megapixel depth sensor. Now, given enough light, the sensor captures good details in landscape shots, but doesn't always get the exposure right even with auto HDR. With close-ups, there's a bit of shutter lag when saving images, which at times causes noticeable ghosting around the edges of objects. The second depth camera does an average job at edge detection in portrait mode, and the blur that's applied looks quite artificial. Now you can readjust this after shooting the image, but there's not much to salvage. In low light, focusing speeds dip a bit and landscape shots suffer the most. Macros are still decent under adequate artificial lighting. Extra features include masks that can be superimposed on people's faces or your own, but there aren't a lot to choose from. Beauty mode is adjustable and thankfully the beautification isn't too jarring. There's also the standard dual and picture-in-picture mode that we've seen on previous Nokia phones, which lets you shoot with the rear and front camera simultaneously. Now, video recording tops out at 1080p and there's stabilization by default which can't be switched off. Under good light, the shimmer effect due to electronic stabilization isn't too visible, but at night, the quality of video is quite poor. The front 8 megapixel selfie camera captures decent selfies under good light, but the HDR doesn't always kick in when you need it to, and at night, the screen flash isn't too effective. Battery life is surprisingly good considering the capacity of just 3060 mAh. We easily managed to go a full day on a single charge, and even more with conservative usage. In our internal video test, we got a runtime of 14 hours and 36 minutes, which is actually pretty good. There's no fast charging support unfortunately, but the 10-watt adapter does give you about a 56% charge in an hour, and it takes a little more than 2 hours to fully charge the phone. It's safe to say that the Nokia 5.1 Plus is a good option at 10,999 rupees. Now, we understand that many phones in this segment now sport higher resolution displays, but honestly, we never really found the HD Plus display on the Nokia to be an issue. The hybrid SIM slot might bother some, especially if you plan to use 2 SIMs and a micro SD card. Low light video performance is also below average, and light metering could have been better in daylight shots. However, the Nokia 5.1 Plus is still one of the best looking phones in this price segment, even with the thick screen borders and the wide notch. Other things going for it include the Android One program, excellent battery life, and a powerful processor. So thanks for watching our review of the Nokia 5.1 Plus, and for all things tech, log on to gadgets360.com.